This computer, got it. Okay. Hello and welcome to Better Than Google. We're going to be talking about Utah's online library here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Go to type on Canvas, which they do a lot. So let's say they're on Canvas and they're making something. It happens all the time that they delete their stuff or Canvas.
Okay, good. Got that taken care of. Okay, can you guys see my screen all right? Okay, awesome. All right, so I'm Dani Sloan from the Utah Education Network. I'm on the professional development team. So if you go to uen.org and you hover over professional development, you'll see all of our bright and shiny faces, and that's how you're going to register for any of the classes and some of the ones that we're going to talk about this morning. I wanted to call your attention to the Learn at Home resources that UEN has put together. So just so you know, I'm going to give you these slides at the end of this presentation, so you'll be able to have all of these slides. You can use them to present to the faculty in your building or just as a reference for yourself. But we made a bunch of videos that are specifically for learning at home and teaching and learning at home. We also have these MOOC classes, and what MOOC classes are is they are massive open online courses, meaning that you can join them at any time and you can finish whenever you'd like. So you can hand in assignments at your own schedule. So we made some extra MOOCs for this unprecedented time that we're going through. So we have a K-5 Canvas that is self-paced, so you can go through that. We have a new course that's called Learning on the Go, Mobile Learning. It's a lot about curating media resources for students. We have our Nearpod Certified Educator course, a Teaching Online course, and then of course our Getting Started with Canvas. We also made a site that's uen.org/learn at home. And let me navigate over to that. When you come here and click on teachers, you'll see all of our resources that might be useful to you when we're talking about virtual learning. Whether we go back to school normal this fall, that would be lovely. But if there ever is some virtual learning happen, or if you're blending your classroom, these resources will be useful to you. I'm going to check the chat really quickly. Maybe. Cavilli, can you see the chat? Are we okay?
Yep, you're fine. I'm keeping an eye on it.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay. So just so you know, uen.org/learn at home teachers, that's going to be your hub for these kinds of resources. All right, so I want to give you 10 things that I think are super important from Utah's online library. Now, if all goes according to plan, I'm going to have you guys use the breakout rooms to share with one another how you would use the resource that we're talking about. So we're going to give it a try the first time, and if it's a mess, we won't do it again. But if it works well, we will do it with the different tools that we're talking about today. So the first thing that you need to know is, how do you log in to Utah's online library? If you are at home, it's not going to recognize that you are an educator. And so you're going to get a screen. Oh, usually it logs me out. The one time I want it to log me out, it actually leaves me logged in. You'll get a screen that's asking for a username and password. So if you have a my.uen.org username and password, you can log in on the teacher side, but you can also use just the free at-home username and password for students in the state of Utah. So we're not trying to be tricky. We're just trying to make sure that these resources that are paid for by the Utah legislature are used by Utah students, teachers, and parents. So the current username and password for the at-home login is online and school. And then in August, we'll switch it again, and the username will still be online, but the password will be database. So if you want to open another tab and navigate to onlinelibrary.uen.org, you'll be able to follow along in the library with me. Something else to note, once you're logged in, if you scroll down to the bottom, you can see the current at-home username and password and the new one. If you are at your school building, you'll notice that if you go to onlinelibrary.uen.org, it will just open up the library because it recognizes that you're coming from a school IP address. So if you ever forget the username and password, go to your school, go to onlinelibrary.uen.org, and you'll be able to see what those are. Okay, so first one down, awesome. So now we're going to talk about subject-specific resources. So specifically for social studies, culturegrams, for science, digital science online, and for math, illuminations. So I'm going to pop back over into Utah's online library, and right at the top is culturegrams. So if you click on culturegrams, you'll notice it comes up with a world edition, a states edition, Canadian provinces edition, and then a kids edition as well. I'm going to pop in to the world, and we are going to look at Ethiopia. We're going to see that maybe I needed to do some research on Ethiopia. So what I love is it gives you a ton of information right here on the home page. And over on the side, you can see that you can toggle back and forth between the kids edition and the regular edition. I think the kids edition is mostly helpful for students ages kindergarten through 4th grade. After that, the world edition is great. Now, one thing that's really cool is each country, can you see my pop-up or is my pop-up not showing up?
It's
anyway.
Not showing.
Oh, okay, I figured. So you can see down here that there is an infographic. There's one for every country, and you can zoom in closer. It's just not showing mine right now. But what this does is it gives a portrait of what the average Ethiopian is compared to the average global citizen. There's also downloads of the anthem. You can see famous people from whatever country you choose, as well as interviews from people who are Ethiopian. The other thing that I super love about culturegrams is right up here at the top where it says graphs and tables. I'm going to click on graphs and tables, and I want to build my own. So I'm going to make my own comparison graph. I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to select a couple different countries. Okay, and then I'm going to choose up to 4 categories. So I'm going to do GDP, internet users, cell phone subscriptions, and life expectancy for female. Then I click Create Comparison Graph, and you'll be able to see how these countries stack up. So I'm looking at GDP right here. This is the US over here on the right, and then I'm comparing with the UK, UAE, Switzerland, Algeria, and Afghanistan. Next up, internet users. So I always think it's really interesting. I feel like we as Americans, we always think like, oh, we're the most high tech. We would probably have the most internet users. Nope. The UK and UAE and Switzerland have more of their population connected to the internet. Cell phone users, they're about 2 to 1 on cell phones in the UAE. And then this is life expectancy for female. So you could have your students talk about what would be different in different countries. Why would life expectancy be different in Switzerland than Afghanistan or in our country? So culturegrams is super cool, and there's a bunch of different resources that you can use in here. The next one that we're going to go to is digital science online. Now, if you teach science or math, there's a little bit of math in here. This might be something that's useful to you when you're doing online school, or I always see it as something that could be really useful when you're getting a sub. So you can see this is the classifying animals chapter, I guess you could call it. If I clicked on motion, you'll see here's motion. They always have videos, animations, images, And then the best part, they come with a teacher guide. So a lot of times when we have a guest teacher in our classroom, they might not know enough about motion to even introduce the video. So I love that this gives the guest teacher a little information about what they need to know about motion. And then down here, there are PDFs of the student activities that go along with the video. They also have the intended learning outcomes and the video script if you would ever need that. So Digital Science Online is awesome. Like I said, there is some crossover to math, so you could go in there and search a particular thing if you're a math teacher and see if it would be any help to you. The last one I'm going to show when we're talking about content specific is I'm going to go down to the bottom. Right below Preschool Pioneer is Thinkfinity. So I'm going to click on Thinkfinity, and then it gives me some options. Now, Arts Edge is an awesome resource if you want to incorporate art into your classroom. So you could type in, I'm teaching fractions and I want an art assignment, and it will give you different lesson plans that will work for fractions, whether it be a song, a dance, or a visual art piece. A Con Ed link is for economics. Edcitement is the humanities. Illuminations is the one I'm going to pop you into. Pro Literacy for literacy resources. Read, Write, Think for ELA. Science Netlinks for science. National Geographic for geography. Wonderopolis is a really cool tool if you're a K through 6 teacher. It has a new wonder of every day. But let's go ahead and pop into Illuminations. Now I can search by the NCTM standards or the Common Core Math standard. So I can maybe say, okay, I'm going to do Common Core. I want something that's appropriate for 5th grade learners, and I want either lessons or online interactives. I'm going to go ahead and click on interactives and then click search. And you will see these are all appropriate for 5th grade. Now I can drill down into numbers and operations or practice, and it'll filter the results even further to something that might be appropriate for the lesson that you're teaching. But like you can see, there are pages and pages of online resources for your students to use. Okay, so this is subject-specific resources. And like I said, I'm gonna try putting you into breakout rooms, and I'm gonna give you 3 minutes. And what I want you to do is I want every person to share which one of these tools is your favorite and how you would use it with your class. Okay, so everyone cross your fingers. Hope that you don't get lost somewhere on the internet, and you will have to unmute yourself to be able to talk to one another. Okay, I'm gonna break you up into 3 rooms, and I'll send you a little message to bring you back. Okay, here you go into your breakout rooms. Good luck. Yay, you're back. You didn't get lost in the internet.
Hey,
Right.
Dani, in the group we were in, I was telling them that if they need extra support with this with their teachers as we move into this new science core, you'd be a great resource. Hopefully you don't mind that.
Oh,
I
no,
threw you out there like
absolutely.
that.
That's great. Thanks, Chad. Everyone else will be back in just a few seconds.
That worked great, Dani.
Yay, there we are. No one got lost in the interwebs. That's what I like to see. Okay, I'm going to share my screen and we're going to go on to the next bit of information. Okay, so the next tool that I want to share with you is the new eMedia. Now, it hasn't been new for about 3 years. However, it's still a lot of teachers' first time seeing it. So eMedia is now an open educational resource hub. So it's kind of combining not just videos and pictures and multimedia like we saw in the past, but also interactives that are easily embeddable into Canvas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop over to Utah's online library. And then up in the top section, the reference collection, you're going to see the UEN-E. So that we're going to click on that for eMedia. Now, when I'm searching in eMedia, I always want to start as broad as possible before I filter it down. So if I'm teaching fractions, I'm going to leave this open. So I know my subject is math. I know my education level is going to be whatever grade level. But I don't need to worry about that just yet. So I'm going to go ahead and click on search, and it's going to show me all of the resources that have to do with fractions. So here we have comparing fractions, build a fraction, great. But maybe I want to decide what type of media I want. Do I want an activity or a lab? If I filter it that way, these are all online activities. And close that out. Maybe I want a homework assignment. Here are ones that are appropriate homework assignments. Perhaps I want to go by the media format. Maybe I want an ebook.
Oh, wow.
So it's pretty cool. It's a great feature that you can go ahead and share things according to what it is you're looking for. Now, I can also make a group. So kind of like Pinterest, how we can have groups and we can share them with other teachers. You can do that within the eMedia. So super cool. You can also rate the things, which we want you to do so we can decide which resources are the best and should remain. Okay, you guys are going to go into breakout rooms again now that I know that you're not going to get lost. And what I want you to talk about is how do you use multimedia in a brick and mortar classroom? And how is that different when we go virtual? I'm going to stop my share. Breakout rooms. Back you go. I think you're going to be with the same people.
Hey, quit sitting around in here.
Thanks for being here. How's your day going?
Good. I just got to laugh because I guess at some point it got back to, I must have mentioned to Justin that I was at a funeral, right?
Oh,
And then it came up that it was my brother-in-law.
Oh,
So I just got, the doorbell just rang, so I left for a minute, and it was a basket from Cactus and Tropicals from UEN wishing me condolences for my loss. If only they
that's
knew.
nice. Exactly. If you only knew the whole story.
Thank you for the lovely plant.
Hey, you're so welcome. When was the funeral?
A week ago Wednesday, so
Okay.
it's almost 2 weeks ago.
How's your sister doing?
Not good with it, but she understands too that it may have been a good thing.
Yeah, for sure. Doesn't make it easy.
No, doesn't make it easy. This is going really well.
Yeah.
I'm gonna use this now. I'm gonna use breakout rooms.
I love the breakout rooms. I use them with my ed psych students, and they really like it. I always go in and monitor their breakout rooms though.
Yeah.
Which is nice. But.
I was trying desperately to get you to crack up about the chat room.
Oh yeah, I saw that. You're so helpful. Yeah. You're in here monitoring the chat for me and sending me funny things.
I wanted you just to see some of the things that Culturegrams missed.
How could they miss that?
I don't know how that wasn't in the things to know section. How long are you timing these out? Like, how long are you giving people?
3 minutes.
Great.
And then just so you know, when you use it, when you press the close all breakout rooms button, it gives them 60 seconds to get back in the room.
Right.
So they can wrap up their conversation.
No, for sure. I'm going to use this as for one of the things in mind. No doubt about it.
That's nice. And you can, like you saw when you were in it, you can broadcast messages to everyone.
Yeah. Well, when I knew I was coming into your room today, I thought I can't just sit with a blank background behind me. Like I look like I'm in a mugshot.
Fawson was at his church and he had it was just white bricks and then a whiteboard, and Zach walked behind me and he was like, looks like Fawson's in a jail.
That's funny. He went to the church to do this.
He said his house isn't quiet. Oh. And I respect that.
It's true.
Everyone will be back in about 12 seconds.
Dani, you got to give a shout out to our UEN homeroom before this is over.
Oh, you're right. I will do that. All right. Welcome back, everybody.
It's a different subject.
Okay. So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to pop on to our next piece. We're going to talk about the Gale reference collection. Gale is one of my favorite pieces when we are talking about having our students do their own research. Now, they have a brand new kids info bit. So if you've seen it in the past, it is totally different. And I want to make you aware of the tools that are available in Gale. So you can have any article be read aloud to your students. It has a screen reader. It has a citation tool, and then there's a really nice Google integration. It also plays nicely with Microsoft 365, if that's what your district uses. So I'm going to go over, and again, in this top reference collection box, you'll see that there are 3 Gales. Now, Gale in Context Elementary is for K6. In my opinion, it's good for K4. I think your upper elementary students could probably hop into the middle school version and be just fine. And then there's a high school collection. So I'm going to go into each one just so you can see what they look like and how they change based on their grade level. So this is Gale in Context for elementary. And if you have been in Wonderopolis, this will look a little familiar to you. every day there's new I wonders. So sometimes when we send our students to research, especially if it's very open-ended, we have the students who just say like, oh, I don't know, I'm not interested in anything. Well, they can click on new question, new question, new question, new question, until they find something that's really interesting for them. So maybe I'm going to search on hybrid cars. That's what I'm interested in. You'll see over here on the right-hand side, I can filter my results by the date, subject, what type of document it is, the content level, or the publication title. So you can see that there's quite a few resources available even in the K through 6 edition. We'll go to this one. Despite bumps in the roads, hybrid cars are still powering on. And you can see that we can have it translated. We can make the text bigger, or using this purple button in the right-hand corner, we can have it read aloud to us. Now, as I just hover over and scroll, I can make my highlights. I can add in some notes. This is for the first paragraph. Save, okay. We'll make another highlight. And then if I come to the top, I can click on send to, and I can send it to my Google Drive. So I have already put in my username and password with Gail. So I already have done that. You just need to do it one time. And now when I come to my Google Drive, anything that is highlighted orange, any of these folders, they have been put there by Gail. I'm a little bit organized. I'm not that organized. So it goes by database. So I was in Kids Info Bits. If I come in there, and I think it was called Despite something. Oh, is it not in there yet? Boop, boop, boop. It's not there yet, but I'll show you what it looks like for when it gets there. Is anything that you highlight will show up the same color that you highlighted in the text. And then down at the bottom, right below the source citation, you have your highlighted passages and then any notes that you wrote. Now this will function the same whether you're in the kids edition or the high school edition. So I'm going to go back to our online library. Let me show you what the middle school edition looks like. And I'm going to search for the same thing, hybrid cars. And you'll notice as each grade gets older, they're going to present more information and different kinds of information. So in middle school, we also get video and audio. So you can include podcasts and videos as part of a requirement for your students. So if you're saying you need 5 sources and I want one of them to be a podcast, it makes it more possible for them. Something I did want to show you is up here at the top. So it always has MLA down at the bottom, MLA citation. And I can click APA or Chicago, and it's also available at the top. So we can teach even our youngest learners how to cite sources because all they need to do is copy and paste. Now we have one more addition in Gale, and that is the reference collection. But you'll notice that this is a lot more databases because in high school they get much more specific. They put all of the biographies together. This is global issues in context. This is just a general search in context, so more like the middle school edition. They have opposing viewpoints in context. And what I love about opposing viewpoints is that it gives you all of the pros and cons, but it doesn't tell you which is a pro and which is a con. It leaves it up to the students to decide on their own. We also have the virtual reference library, OneFile, which is a newspaper database, and then this Gale OneFile high school edition, which includes journals, newspapers, magazines, etc. And then of course, Gale in context in science. So we're not going to go into breakout rooms for this one, but I want you to type in the chat, is there already a project in mind that you would like to use the Gale reference collection with, or which database you're most likely to use with your students? So what do you think? What are you most like, which one are you most likely to use? Or do you already have a research project in mind that you already do with your students? Okay, president reports. We have someone who's most likely to use opposing viewpoints. Ooh, and the president reports, they would use the biographies in context. So even if you don't teach in high school, it's okay to send your students to the high school edition for biographies. There may be more content and some content that's not appropriate for our K-6 students, but it is definitely safer than sending them out to Google.
So I've used it for National History Day.
Oh, awesome. Thanks, Brent.
That's worked really well.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Tara said this will help focus her students when they're researching. They think that just Googling it is research. And I think it's nice. Yeah, I think it's nice to say, to give them something else instead of Google, because we can say all day long, like, Wikipedia doesn't count, it doesn't work for me. But if we're not providing them with a resource that works instead of Wikipedia or Google, we're not really helping them out. Michelle uses the screen reader a lot for different needs of students. Jody says Gale for elementary because of the I wonder questions, which are awesome. Great work, guys. Thank you. All right. Next, we're going to talk about EBSCO. So to go to EBSCO, you've probably used this in your past. And if you are like me, you may shudder a little bit because EBSCO is probably what you used as an undergrad, right, to do your searching. However, it's gotten a little more beautiful than it was in the past. For EBSCO, I want you guys to notice the difference of these two URLs. So we have onlinelibrary.uen.org and we have onlinelibrary.utah.gov. Now I'm gonna say they're both better than just sending them to Google, right? Because they're gonna get anything on the internet in Google. Onlinelibrary.utah.gov is the online library for the public library system. So it is not filtered for K-12. Onlinelibrary.uen.org is filtered for K-12 users. So that's the difference between those two URLs. So when I come back to the library, you'll see that EBSCO has 4 different pieces of information. There's EBSCO Elementary, EBSCO Middle, EBSCO High School, and EBSCO Educators. I'm gonna pop into EBSCO High School. Now you'll notice Academic Search Premier is right at the top. That's going to have peer-reviewed research for your students. So definitely I'm talking like older junior high and high school students, and also people who are in grad school right now. So I have to tell you, I'm in school right now and I use Academic Search Premier very often. There's also a biography center. There is a home improvement center, which is awesome. It gives you all of the how-tos. There's Automate that you can put in the make, model of your car and what light is shining, and it'll tell you what's wrong and how to fix it. There's a hobbies and crafts reference section, science, all sorts of different things. Oh, and AP High School Explorer, which searches a bunch of databases, and it does include Academic Search Premier, so you can limit and make sure that they are peer-reviewed sources. Again, we're running out of time, so we're not going to go into the breakout rooms, but I want to know, is there a new database that I just mentioned that maybe you didn't know about? Or is there one that you love that you have used before? And has it been more for personal or professional use? So go ahead and pop that answer into the chat. I'll say that I didn't know about the hobbies and crafts one until I worked for UEN, and it has a lot of great ideas. Brenda also says that she uses the hobbies one or the how-to. Tara's interested in Academic Search Premier as a professional resource. It's great. It definitely helps to limit out some of the noise when you're looking for something scholarly or peer-reviewed. Okay, we're going to move on. I appreciate all of you who are sharing. So this is just to let you know that we have a lot of Spanish resources within Utah's online library. A few things that you're going to want to note, Preschool Pioneer, which is our piece for our youngest learners, let me get there, can be translated completely into Spanish or about any other language. So if we're going to Preschool Pioneer, it's down at the bottom right above Thinkfinity. This is for K2 learners. I shared this with a lot of kindergarten, first and second teachers when we were in a soft closure or the school dismissal. And it has pre-media, which is videos specifically for our youngest learners. It has activities. These are all like digital games, and it lets you know which ones require flash and which ones don't. And it has activity calendars that are really adorable. So just a fun resource if you are in early childhood or if you have families who have young learners. EBSCO is translated into Spanish as well as 31 other languages. World Book Encyclopedia has a version that is entirely translated into Spanish. And then Digital Science Online has a Spanish component as well that's in our online library. Now, what's nice about this is not just for our students and families that Spanish is their first language, but also if you're a dual language immersion teacher and you have your Spanish, you can have your students research in Spanish. If your school is French, there's also French resources available, but not as many as for our Spanish speakers. The next step is the whole Discover Utah column. So down here on the left-hand side, these are all resources that are available specifically for Utah. Now, this Counties of Utah page has recently been updated, and you can click on any county and find out information. So if you have a 4th or 7th grade teacher in your life, or you are a 4th or 7th grade teacher, let them know about this resource that's available to them. I remember doing my county report in 4th grade. I had Iron County and I made a float, and it was very exciting. So just let them know that these resources are available. Now, we also have access to the Deseret News and to the Trib, and I don't know if there's still a paywall on the Trib, but if there is, this lets you get around it. Also in that Discover Utah section is the Utah's digital newspapers, which is kind of my favorite right now. So I'm going to show you, if you go right here, it says Utah Digital Newspapers. Now, if you're like me, you've gone to a county library before and you've had to use the microfiche, which is a big machine that you slide all of these like copies of newspapers over. And if you don't know exactly what day it is you're looking for, you're going to be there for a while. Now, all of the county libraries have started to scan and digitize their newspapers from the past. So it's not just scanned, but it also is reading the text. So I'll give you an example. My grandma was Miss Utah in 1950. So if I search her name, you'll see it will bring up all of the newspapers that have her name in it. So if I come down here, let's find a good one. Okay, this is from the Salt Lake Telegram. And you can see the highlights right there. It's not just reading even just the headline, it's reading the piece in itself. So like I said, if I didn't know that this was in the paper, I could Google it. And on October 27th of 1949, there's my adorable grandmother holding a turkey. And I was actually able to show this to her right before she passed away. And I said, hey, Grandma, do you know who that is? And she opened one eye and looked and said, oh, that's me. That bird stunk. So whether you're using it for your students to look up how things were written in historical papers or something that happened 100 years ago today, or if you're doing family research, you can use Utah's digital newspapers. Okay, another thing I wanted to draw your attention to is we have access to the National Archives and the Library of Congress right within Utah's online library. So down here in General Resource, right here is the National Archives, and Library of Congress is right here. I had to move your faces around a little bit to see it. Now, we don't have special access to the Library of Congress or the National Archives, but we do want Utah's online library to kind of be your students' one-stop shop for research. So we don't want you to forget that there are resources available that have primary and secondary documents that your students can look up, the actual scans. Great resource. We don't want to forget about it. Okay, and last but not least is the Learning Express Library. Now, this is awesome. So if you come, it's right in the top section, and it says Learning Express Library. And when I click on it, you'll notice at the top, it has the UEN logo, or see, there it is, the Utah's Online Library logo. Now, you need to create an account. So you'll have to make a username and password for this resource, but it's not going to ask you to pay for it. If you were to just Google Learning Express Library and make an account, you'd have to put in credit card information. But what's available in Learning Express Library is everything from helping students who are going to be taking the high school equivalency, so the GED, there's a piece in there for them. There's also college admissions test prep, so ACT, SAT available in there. There's also a section where they take a little test and it determines where they're weak in math or language arts, and it gives them tutorials to bring them up. I always say if students have to take like those tests when they get into college where it determines which math test they're in, which math class they're in, this is a great resource so they don't have to take those 900 level classes that they have to take, but they don't count for credit to get up to where they need to be. There's also a place where you can take the citizenship test and prepare for that. So I hope that this was useful to you. If you want to take a picture of this bit.ly or just write it down, it's bit.ly/Qs, CUESUOL for Utah's Online Library, and that will take you to the slides for today. So you can have those and use them whenever you need a little refresher on all of the things that are available in Utah's Online Library. So again, that's bit.ly/Qs, CUESUOL for Utah's Online Library, and it is all lowercase, and I believe that does matter. All right, that is it from me. I hope you enjoy this virtual conference.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much for your
Thank you.
information.
Thanks, Tad.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, let's see if I can get out of this.
Good job, Dani.
Thanks, Jared.